So my background is teaching. So teaching and learning, geography, history, psychology, English, deputy principal of a large government school. They were the first government school in the world to roll out laptops for kids in 1995, 20 years ago. The first ever one-to-one school was in 1988. So as we worry about our technology woes now, share a bit of a thought for those guys back in 1988 and what they were working with at the time. Pretty innovative stuff. So, and I also used to lecture at Monash University in the education faculty. So education's very important, and we can't afford to be tinkering when we're trying to teach kids. We have to be well considered in what we do, and we need to make sure that every decision we make is for the benefit of those students. As a result of that, often what happens is society moves very fast with technology, and schools kind of catch up conservatively. It's not a criticism, it's a reality, because we've seen it for many, many years. But the high impact part is I'm going to talk about 5 big ideas, that if you want your technology to be, even though it might move slow, to be high impact, there's 5 big ideas that I'm going to talk about this evening. Everything we talk about in technology in schools should actually be about making learning better. And if it's not, then we need to question why we're spending the money and doing it. We have to make sure that the learning is better. So I'm going to talk about some ideas for you. First thing, we have to make sure that we have an evidence-informed strategy that is based on educational research, not on technology. Right? Seems obvious. I don't see it a lot. You know, I see the opposite. Oh, so what do you do with technology? Oh, we've got an iPad program. Or we've got a Windows 8 program. Or we've got a Surface program. That's not what I'm asking. That's the technology bit. Tell me about what's happening in the learning. Tell me about why it's different to what it was before. So we have to have an evidence-informed strategy. The second thing I'm going to say is pretty controversial and a bit uncool, and that is that the device you put in the hands of kids for their learning journey will have an impact on their ability to learn. It's pretty uncool, I realise that. But I'm going to talk to you about some research that talks to that idea. The third one is have a collaboration platform and plan curriculum that exploits it. And I'll talk about why that's important and show you some demos around it. I'm not sure I'll get to 4 and 5 tonight because we've got a bit of a shorter time. But the fourth one is be deliberate in developing the 21st century skills that you think you're developing by putting technology in kids' hands. For example, just because kids are sitting and typing together in a collaborative Word document or a Google Doc does not mean they're learning collaboration. We have to get that idea out of our head. So we have to be a bit more scientific in our approach to developing the skill of collaboration in students. And you know, there's an approach called 21CLD, 21st Century Learning Design, which is a brilliant approach to help teachers understand how do I design the curriculum that actually builds the skills. Because typing together in a doc isn't necessarily building collaboration skills. So it might be evidence of collaboration happening, but it's not going to build the skills. And industry and everyone else wants the skills. The fifth thing that I would talk about, and we'll see how we go, is the idea of using data better. The next wave of educational technology is learning analytics. It's going to crash on us in a few years. We are, as schools, data rich but information poor. We've got so much data about kids, but so little information about how to pull it together. So, for example, there's a school in the UK called New Mind Learning Academy, and they decided that what they wanted to do was be pastorally focused and say, wouldn't it be awesome if our coordinators, who look after a year level of kids, had some dashboard that showed them which kids were likely to be heading towards depression. Now, when you break that down, there's probably 6 or 7 or 8 indicators that kids might be struggling. And in terms of depression, they identified 5. I'm not going to be able to remember them all, but let me give it a shot. Truancy will increase. They'll stop coming to school so much. Grades will decrease. We'll see that. Kids will have more arguments with friends. They will disconnect from the school production or the netball team or the chess club or whatever. They'll withdraw themselves from social situations. And I can't remember what the others were. But what they did was All data about all of those things exists within a school. The problem is the coordinators were never being easily shown that to make an intervention. So when a coordinator who, at my school of 1,600 kids that I was deputy of, the coordinators were in charge of 250 kids. There's no possible way you can have a personal relationship or even a chat or an eyeball with 250 kids in a day. There's no way. So what happens is the kids who come through your door, usually the troublesome ones, they're the ones that get the attention. The other 200 who don't come to the office, how do you know? We've got the data. So the next wave for us in educational technology is about using data better, and it's about learning analytics. Businesses are already doing this. Business intelligence, they call it. And we're going to see a big wave around our use of data. So, one of the things I often hear when I go to schools, when I talk to them and say, so what are you doing with technology around learning and that? And they proudly say, we're going BYOD. And I say, okay, we lease our photocopiers. BYOD is a provisioning model. It's about who pays for technology. It's not a pedagogical stance. It's nothing to do with teaching and learning. BYOD, bring your own device, is actually the method by which kids get one and bring it to school. It's nothing to do with learning at all. So we have to kind of separate these ideas, because often what we hear is we're going BYOD as someone's learning strategy, someone's teaching strategy. It's not. As a matter of fact, BYOD is something, depending on the device you choose, which can help or hinder students' ability to learn. So, done that slide. The choice of model of BYOD you choose can actually have an impact on what kids achieve. I actually think schools, open brackets, who know something about learning, close brackets, should be involved in helping parents and kids choose a device for learning. I think we should. And I think we need to sort of make a bit of a stance on that. And I'm going to talk to you about why. Follow me on a harebrained analogy. This is a functionality discussion. That's what this is about. These shoes have different functions. If I bring the wrong shoes, I won't be able to run so well. Right? So we've got high heels and flippers and work boots and ski shoes. It's about function, right? It's about functionality. These devices have different functionality. From a phone to a tablet to a PC or Mac to a two-in-one device with a stylus like the Z20T or to what's in the supercomputer. They all have different functionality. This is a functionality discussion. It's not a criticism of any of those. Just because I run better in sneakers doesn't mean I occasionally on Saturdays wear stilettos. Right? Because they serve a different purpose. Just because I think a device that's a two-in-one with a stylus is the most impactful for learning doesn't mean I don't ever have a phone or a tablet. It's about function. It's about functionality. So let me go a little bit further. Shoes matter if you're going running. Devices matter if you're doing this activity called learning. So, let's talk a little bit about teaching, because teaching can also be impacted on by the type of device you have. So Monash University did a study, and they looked at the impact of about lectures, and they said, how engaging are lectures to students, firstly, and secondly, how much of a difference do they make to learning? How good are they for learning? And they found that over time, from 1990 to the early 2000s, there was a steady decline in engagement and impact of going to a lecture. And there were many reasons for this, which they unpacked. Here's two of the reasons. Keynote and PowerPoint. Don't tweet that. But it's not so much about the technology, it's about the fact that the lecturers changed their method of delivery. So the difference was, when I was teaching at university, I would go into my office, close my door and spend 4 or 5 hours putting together the absolutely best PowerPoint with all the right stuff in it. No student ever saw me thinking. And then I went into my lecture and I went, press, shh, blah, 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 blah. Shh, blah, 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 blah. So what they saw was me talking about the results of my thinking. They didn't actually see me think. Now this is a very Microsoft-y slide. I apologise. The harsh reality is that 93% or something of organisations use Office as their productivity tools. The other harsh reality is, when an analysis was done last year in Australia of all jobs that were listed on seek.com, 84% of all jobs that mentioned anything to do with IT, not IT jobs, every job that mentioned anything to do with IT, 84% said you must have Microsoft skills. Right? So we need to make sure that kids have those skills when they leave school. If they're in IT, if they're IT kids, then they're going to go into the IT profession. This is an analysis done by Indeed.com in 2013 that looked at the number of jobs available to them around the world based on what technology they specialise in. And if they know stuff about Microsoft technology, there's 52,500 jobs worldwide they could apply for. And if they're proficient in Cisco or Apple or Google, there's much less. It's not a criticism, it's just the way it is. So the idea of preparing kids with skills in using something like Office is actually pretty important. It can be available from anywhere. So from a Mac or PC, from a mobile phone, from an iPad, from an Android slate, from a full PC, it doesn't matter. It can be in the browser, it can be in an app, it can be in the full version of Word or PowerPoint or OneNote or whatever on your Mac or PC, it doesn't matter. And then we sort of go, but hang on, he said device matters before, now he's telling us it doesn't matter. Well, it kind of does matter. And here's the reason why. I'm going to show you some demos. This is a OneNote page. OneNote, by the way, is what I'm presenting out of today. It's just a big piece of paper, right? It's just a big bit of paper that I sat down with and I started scribbling ideas of what might make up a presentation, and I circled bits of text and moved them around, and then I grabbed screenshots from websites and bits of research and I just whacked them on the paper, and then I did the equivalent of shuffling all my bits around on the big bit of paper, and then it turns into a presentation that looks like that. Now I'm skipping past things, but my whole presentation is really just a big sort of snake of ideas individually. It's just OneNote. It's been part of Office since Office 2003. So the interesting part about it though is that OneNote actually looks and works a little bit differently depending on what device you're on. So let me give you an example. One of the things I spoke about before was the idea of feedback. And the fact that we can be, if we do proper feedback, or just start fresh, if we do proper feedback, if we can improve our feedback, we are more likely to improve student performance. Let me give you an idea. So here is a piece of paper with a student's essay on it. Forget that it's in my notebook here called Work, which is synchronizing to the cloud. So this is all in the cloud. But forget it's called Work. Think about this being called Year 10 English. So let's assume that I'm teaching Year 10 English, and my kids have been asked to write a bit of an essay or a story or a response in issues or whatever. So the beautiful thing about digital paper is it can be in multiple places at the same time. It's here on my computer, but if you are the student who wrote it, it's also on yours, because it sits up there and we've just both got it open. 100 people can have it open. And what that means is that anything I write on the bit of paper is going to go to you, and everything you write is going to come to me, because we're on the same piece of paper. Why does that matter for feedback? If I'm going to mark this piece of work, it's 10:30 at night, and I'm just going to start some marking. It must be my wife, that's when she starts. Then I'm going to just go into my bit of paper here, which is actually that student's work, and go record audio. Thanks, Jess, for getting this in. I don't know where your title's gone, though. I'm sure you had it on a previous draft. Let me just go full screen. So I really like these ideas in here. This is a really strong start. Your referencing's good. I love it. It makes me happy. This paragraph here, though, I'm not quite so sure. There's a couple of different ideas in this paragraph. I think there's 3 ideas in there. And because I'm recording audio now, I don't have to write everything I'm saying, right? So now feedback becomes teaching. I'm teaching again. So have a look back to example 2, part 1, of the stuff we did on Tuesday. We read 3 articles. Go to example 2. Go to part 1 and think about the annotations we did over that and about how to structure great paragraphs, because that's what you're missing here. And then I keep going and I mark and I mark and I mark. And at the end of that process, I stop. That is a digital piece of paper which has now got an audio file on it. And it's got ink on it. But I've been able to mark it fluently, but it's also got voice into it. And so one of the things I can do is play it back. But it also highlights what I was writing at the time I was speaking. So I'm giving her some praise about this paragraph. Now, that by now will have synchronized to the student. So you've got it, right? You've got my audio, you've got my marking, you've got everything. Because it's your bit of paper I'm writing on. So the interesting part is in terms of feedback, is if I was that student, let me just go full screen again here, and I'm going to zoom in. If I was that student, I get it that I forgot my title, right? It's obvious to me that I stuffed that up. Do I need to hear you talk about it? Probably not. This, you love this, I'm happy with that, I don't want to hear it. But I'll tell you what, I'm confused about you. You've got problems with this paragraph and I need to listen to it. So what I can do is instead of listening to the whole sound file, see as I hover over those lines, a little grey play button appears? That's going to start the audio from that point in time where I wrote on that piece of paper. So as a student now, they will actually, it goes back 5 seconds in time, doesn't go back to the start, and then comes down through here. So in terms of feedback, a couple of things have happened. One is that I've been able to give a deeper form of feedback. And it's been in my first initial response to it. How many times as a teacher, if I had $1 for every time I wrote this in a margin, please see me.
And $1 for every time the kid actually cancel you.
No, that wouldn't be many dollars. So that is what we write. And that's a result of the fact, especially as we get further up to school, that I can't necessarily re-explain the concept of the absolute threshold or some environmental issue in 4 words in a margin that they've stuffed up here. But I can in a 20-second audio file. Marking just became more powerful for kids, right? So this, and you know, I sound like I'm a broken record. Your choice of technology in the hands of teachers and kids can make a difference to learning.